Thanks for joining me today, my friends. My name is Rainy Cat, and this is my mountain. I thought of making something huge on the mountain, like tall structures or towers, but instead I decided to put a lot of details. Thousands of details, millions of details. And after the details, here it is now. Instead of showing you how I detail with one block at a time, I'm going to do a time lapse where you can see me just placing millions of details. This is all in survival, and it takes months to show in real time, so this is going to go at about 1,000 times speed. And the first thing I started doing was just placing water. Water as waterfalls, water as pools, water as rivers, looks very lovely. And it's easy to do. I just wanted to connect the mountain to the rest of my base, so I started surrounding it with this little stream. And the next thing I did was to try to match the gold of the mountain with more gold. Eye blossoms at night would shine gold like this, and they'd also look good in the daytime when they blend in with the stone. All my time lapses are done in survival. Sometimes I make designs in creative and then put them into my survival server, but on this one I decided to wing it and do every single thing in survival. So I decided to cover this mountain in eye blossoms. And this minute of time lapse you see took the better part of a week. Most people do their time lapses in creative, and I did consider doing that too, but I feel like building in survival makes it feel more alive, at least for me. So even though it's a little messier than a creative time lapse, I think it's more genuine. What do you think? Let me know. Like I said, I'm not doing any other mega structures to continue this build. Instead, I just did a lot of small blocks. Like these bushes that came with the new update, I think are a super underrated block. They just go so well with grass that it's basically like being able to retexture grass and just add a little depth to it. That's my friend Reza, who helped me with a lot of that. The next thing I started doing were paths. And if you think about it, none of these details are particularly challenging to do. Just pouring down some water, putting down some flowers, making a path. Okay, this part was a little trickier. I wanted the mountain to not look like it was just kind of floating on the water, so I decided to fill it out a bit with a little bit of land. My base is an island with pretty uninspiring natural terrain generation, but I wanted that. I had planned all along to do mass training on my island, so instead of having just amazing training ahead of time, I planned to just work with a flat island like a blank canvas and really build up my own terrain block by block. I wanted to tie in the mountain with the rest of my base, And since there's a lot of gold on the mountain, I decided to make a kind of warm golden village. I didn't want it to feel like metallically gold. I wanted it to feel more like a warm village bathed in sunlight. I'm doing a lot of tinkering with these. None of these are created in creative. But even in creative, I tear my own stuff down and build it back up. I wasn't really going for any specific builds. I just wanted it to give off a vibe of sunniness and warmth. I've taken to using leaves for windows. A lot of people use glass for windows, so do I, but if you think about it, you can use pretty much anything for windows. Even solid blocks like redstone lamps. If you put it in the right place and put a windowsill, any block will look like a window, so you don't just have to confine yourself to glass. This mansion, I love it, but it also didn't really feel like it belonged next to the mountain, at least for me. So I was trying to think, what should I do to kind of make it look like it belongs next to the mountain? And I thought, how about adding some yellow to it? Instead of mixing up the roof colors or just adding yellow flowers, I decided to go big. This is actually a butterfly, an original design by me that I've already put in my base, but I altered that one to look like a monarch butterfly, yellow rather than orange. As for the mansion itself, I didn't really change anything. I just started adding a lot of little details, and one of my favorite that I've seen is using resin clumps. They look like glowberries, except instead of hanging from them, you can put them on almost any block. And leaves are great because it looks like there are glowing berries on the leaves. You can also use them for things like looking like drops of lava, or as another person did, looking like crumbled Dorito chips on the ground. You can see I'm not putting in any mega structures. I'm not doing anything massive, but I'm just doing a million details rather than something a million times bigger. It might seem like I'm doing this easily, but trust me, I'm just like you. I stood back and tried to think of what to do. I spent more time hopping around than placing blocks, thinking of what would look just right. Other thing is that you don't necessarily have to make these planters with the same types of trapdoors. I've been trying to do different kinds of planters, and not necessarily just full of flowers. Half of my base is in the sky as floating islands. Then there's the mountains on the ground. I wanted to do something to kind of remind people that this is also a base in the sky. So I decided to make this floating island and see how well this Happy Gas did in helping me build it. I would say the Happy Gas is kind of like improved scaffolding. The only thing is that when a friend looked at this and asked, how did you make that Happy Gas hold still and stay there? I have no idea. I tried to recreate it and the happy gas would not stay put. Then I started building another floating island and it stayed still, but I have no idea why. Maybe it just felt like it. Anyway, I would compare the happy gas to really good scaffolding rather than a substitute for Claimfly. I wanted it to be rather different from the mountain, not just a piece of the mountain torn from it, but I also wanted it to have some similarities. So I just decided to make the bottom of it pure white, kind of looking like marble, calcite, quartz. But I did use moss at the top to tie it in with the mountain. It's actually a fairly big island. It just looks tiny next to the mountain. That is pale moss, and I love using pale moss because it looks like stone, but it's stone that you can place flowers and plants on top of. In fact, if you look closely at my mountain, most of the gray stone isn't stone, it's just pale moss, so I'm free to put all those lovely flowers on. I added in stone and diamond ore because if you're going to flex your diamonds, it doesn't hurt to do it in a lovely way. I think that's pretty cool, in fact. No need just to build a diamond house with a diamond roof. You can get creative. If you're wondering how I'm doing this terraining, the only way to become better at mass terraining is just doing it. If you've ever tried to make two custom trees, your first one will be worse than your second. You just have to keep on doing it and improve little by little. My terraining is still not at the level that I want it to be, but it never will be, but that's not a bad thing. I always like trying to improve on my building. There's never a time where I'm going to say, my building can't get any better. It always can, and I think a lot of builders feel the same way. Or maybe when you become a great builder, you don't think that, you just sit back and say, hey, I did it. That's all. Detailing is a lot harder than it looks because it might only seem like a few blocks, but all those blocks are different. I probably use more types of blocks on this single small island than I do on my entire mountain. If you're wondering why detailing is so hard, that's why. You just use a variety of blocks. This is the half of the mountain I detailed. The other half is actually by my neighbor Adam, and he had a lot more variation, a lot more than 2 types of flowers. And I liked less variation, but I did decide it needed a little bit of variation. It almost looked fake with only one kind of flower, so I decided to keep most of them eye blossoms. You really can't have too much water. Before, this terrain was fairly boring, but now you see, just with a few paths and a little bit of water, it's looking better. As for this part, I decided, let's just try all the new plants. I knocked out most of the grass and tossed in a lot of rooted dirt to keep with the sunny theme of the village. And one thing I found that I love doing is mixing in this tall dry grass with wheat. Wheat itself is beautiful, but mixing it in makes it just look so much more realistic, as if there's a slightly different type of shaped wheat. In some places, I put a lot of variation with flowers, but you really don't need to. I just did torch flower spam here. And here's my diamond waterfall, my best flex ever. Yes, this is in survival, and those diamonds were gathered in survival. But I wanted it to look a little splashier at the end of the waterfall. That's how I completed my second mountain. My first mountain was full of massive constructs, whereas this one had thousands of tiny details. Which one do you like more? Let me know, and I'll see you in the next time lapse.